happy to bring you a first-hand story of world history through the eyes of a loyal American hero.
I stayed by for about 2 weeks, and that was all of it I could stand. And since I was a radio operator, I found out that the American Army and the Russian Army had met 25 miles from where we were, and I got together 12 of my close buddies, and we started walking out into the countryside of Germany. And believe you me, the German civilians, women and old men, were glad to have an American soldier come into their house and protect them from the Russians overnight. And that's how we survived for 5 days and made it back to the American lines. We were met by a convoy of American trucks led by an American general in a light tank, and we were transported back to the Hildesheim airport, and then we were flown from there to the rehabilitation center at Le Havre, France. I spent 6 weeks in the rehabilitation center, and there we were interviewed to make sure that we were all American soldiers. New uniforms. We were fed, fattened up a little before we were sent home on a 6-day voyage across the Atlantic Ocean back to New York City. We arrived just about sundown one evening, and the pilot would not escort our troop ship into the docks until next morning. So we sat in the harbor and looked at the Statue of Liberty overnight, and then next morning we were unloaded and taken over to Fort Dix and made arrangements for transportation back to Dawson Springs.
What was it like coming home after the war?
Hard to explain. First emotion was when we met the American trucks on the highway. We were walking, and these trucks pulled up beside of us with a big white star on the side. That was the first emotion. And from there, it just kept building all the way home until the hugs and kisses of the family when I surprised them walking home. There was 6 months there that I'd been reported as missing in action and not reported as a prisoner of war until 6 months later. In March, I was reported missing in action, and August, they were notified that I was a prisoner of war, and then nothing more, and they didn't know what the process was for prisoner of war. And I walked in at home very unexpected, but welcome.
So you were a prisoner of war for 2 years?
2 years and 4 months.
Were you aware of time? Did you know how long you had been there while you were there?
Yes, we managed to have a calendar and kept up with the days and many marks on your bedboards, and the days were very long, and the beds were three a bunk on the floor, middle bunk, and one above. I was in the middle bunk, and I counted the cracks between the bed boards and the bed above me. There were 16. But the YMCA and Red Cross supplied a very good library, and I spent a lot of time reading. Managed to get a hold of the Gone with the Wind and read that, and many of the popular books we were able to get and read.
So they allowed the YMCA and the Red Cross to take care of you all?
Germany was a member of the International Red Cross. Russia was not. That's why the Russian prisoners were treated much more harshly than we were. Many mornings, 15 Russian bodies were thrown into the back of a truck that had died overnight from starvation. The American Red Cross, or International Red Cross, actually kept us from starving to death. I'm a strong believer in the Red Cross. I was a volunteer for about 6 years at the Hopkins County Red Cross. I did military communication, servicemen that had emergencies here, sickness or death in the family. I contacted the military, got a hold of the person, and arranged for a furlough for them to come home.
Do you know how much of your time was spent with the Germans and how much was spent with Russians?
Only about 6 weeks with the Russians. Hardly that much. I found out that the Americans and Russians had met at the Elbe River, and that's when we started walking to the river. But the Americans would pull back, and we had trouble catching up with them, but finally we did. The general who was taking a convoy of trucks, he had word that the prison camp was there, and he was going in to pick up those left at the prison camp. And there was 12 of us that loaded into a truck, and the Germans had put us into a column that had taken us back to the prison camp. And there was our 12 plus about 12 more. And we went down this street and turned a corner. After we got around the corner, we ducked into a bombed-out building, and the column went on by and went on toward the prison camp, and the guard behind didn't miss us. And after we got on the trucks, we went and caught up with that column and loaded up the Americans and left the Germans to walk. No, it's Russians. It's Russians. And we left them standing out there with the roadside.